Hello, everyone. I'm going to be talking about extroverted sensing in the first slot, the dominant function of the ESTP and ESFP personality types. And to begin, I want to mention kinesthetic intelligence because it's something that I correlate to the main Jungian function of sensation. And I kind of forgot to mention that in my SI video. So it applies to both SI and SE. Now, in terms of SE specifically, Jung said this himself in Psychological Types, that no other type in terms of SE DOMs can match them in terms of realism, because SE, it really prospers and shines in the present moment, in the now, and it's able to, focus its attention on external objects, surroundings, on the environment, and SE DOMs in particular have an almost like hyper realism or hyper realistic perspective or viewpoint in life, where the external five senses are heightened, and it's almost like they have hawk eyes and they're able to see things that are hidden in plain sight and things that a lot of people miss out on a lot of times. So this also works well with detail analysis and SE's ability to really analyze details of external objects and things in their surrounding, and have a very keen perception of what this object or thing is. A very important one for SE is willpower. The will to act, to take action, to manifest your own reality, to change it. This mentality of I must do this, I must have this. Even if I fall down, I'll get back up again, try again, no matter what. And that also relates to this, approach of all or nothing. SE DOMs, it's not like they're always impulsive, like they're always on the move, even though it can seem that way, but they really have this like switch that they can just turn on and be 100% dedicated to whatever they're doing. And the last one I want to mention is passion and courage. And yes, it can be argued that these are states of emotion, but what I've seen from my own personal experience is that SE DOMs, they really tend to be the most passionate, courageous people that I've met, and I've, correlated this to extroverted sensing, especially when it's in the first slot, the dominant function. So let's look at some examples of what the SE-NI axis might look like. So, for instance, Hemingway was an author that wrote a lot about war. A lot of people type him as ESTP. I would agree with that. But basically, the idea here is that SE, if it wants to know what war is, then it wants to have that tangible, sensory, realistic experience of, going out there and doing it, actually going through what war is. SE's not really interested in hearing other people's theories, opinions, philosophies, their ideas of what war is. It wants to go and experience it for itself. So, going to boot camp, doing the training, traveling to different countries, going to, the battlefield, charging the fray, all of these sensory experiences are absorbed by SE. And after that's been completed, then that information can be sent to NI, and NI can take it, conceptualize it, philosophize it, arrive at a bigger picture, meanings, and write a book about it, with the SE-NI axis working together in unison. But as far as, just taking someone's word for something, especially an intangible concept such as war, SE doesn't like that. It wants to go out there and do it. It wants to say that it was there. Kind of like, the famous phrase, Kilroy was here, a famous phrase that was, I think, from World War II, about a soldier who just kept writing it on, different sheets of paper and like walls and stuff. Probably an SE DOM. But another example would be, say you have a person, let's just say that they're an SE DOM, and they have a new piece of equipment, or like a power tool, heavy machinery, a weapon. They want to look at it at like, even if they've had previous experience of it, they want to look at it from like a fresh new perspective of like, oh, it's this first time that I'm holding this thing in my hand, I'm rotating it, I want to find out what all the buttons do. That's the kind of attitude that SE has towards, external objects. uh, Take for example like skateboarding. You have to be completely in the present, in the now, and you have to be confident and have this willpower to maintain attention, know that you can do it in order to skateboard without hurting yourself. Because the moment you start hesitating, or conceptualizing, or thinking about the meaning of life, you're going to hurt other people, you're going to hurt yourself. And this is why SE really shines in the present moment. There's a famous quote by Genghis Khan. It goes something like, if you're afraid, don't do it. But if you're doing it, don't be afraid. That's kind of how I see the mentality of SE. Going back to external objects, it can also be something like a painter holding a paintbrush or a writer holding a pen. It takes a certain amount of finesse and precision, right, to do whatever it is that you're wanting to do with the object in your hand, or to manifest something in reality around you. And a lot of people, they equate SE to like attack, destroy, break. But yes, SE can do these things, but of course this is stereotypical. And these things, you also have to know how to defend, how to heal, how to fix. These are also SE things, and sometimes people forget about that because SE is very often associated with this very aggressive, brutish, caveman-like energy that you might see, in this clip, for example.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it! If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
All right, so even if that clip was supposed to be taken seriously as a motivational speech or a legendary meme, it doesn't really matter. I mean, regardless, to me, it's kind of like a personification of SE in the first and I in the fourth. That axis. And yeah, it might be an exaggeration, but to me, it's kind of like a personification of that. Those distinctive SE hand movements in order to emphasize his points, his intensity, that headstrong mentality, that attitude. That's SE. And even though that might be a bit intense for some people, even though it might be a bit intimidating, you know, so is rock and roll. I mean, rock and roll in every sense of the phrase and the genre of music is like SE to me. Uh, but anyways, going back to theory about extroverted sensing, I relate it to this psychological term of selective attention. And what it is basically this ability to completely tune in or tune out on various sorts of sensory information. this like all or nothing mentality. And what I've noticed is that SE DOMs, even from a very young age, uh, taking a page of a book, for example, SE scans incredibly fast. And like if you present them a piece of paper of a book or something, they can read it extremely fast and just digest that information, as long as it's a piece of nonfiction. If they're into code, analyzing the script, really just seeing for what it is, for any errors or mistakes, any sorts of documents, legal documents, for example, anything that can be analyzed on an objective basis, SE will scan it incredibly fast. Now, the thing where the place where it kind of slows down is like fiction or prose, because it needs to be read slower in order to be understood, and it's a bit more subjective. And NI is good at that because it's good at holding that image or that story, whatever, in its mind. SE just wants to go do analyze, and that to me is a good example of the SINE axis. A final example would be like, say this is like Mario, a video game. SE is by far the best function at video games, there's no question. So selective attention, first they'll pick up the controller and they'll want to experiment themselves. What does this button do? What does this button do? How does it affect my character? And then they'll move the character around. They'll go this way, they'll jump up, and they'll start to observe different pieces of information. I want to go hit this block. What happens when I hit this block? I want to go in this hole and die, and I want to see what happens to my character. They want to explore every nook and cranny of what that video game has to offer. And by doing so, it's a process of trial and error. This is how SE DOMs learn, through experience. They don't want to be told that if you go in the hole, you die. They want to just go in the hole and see that you die and see what happens. And then if it's bad, they won't repeat it. Going back to, my athlete analogy of how SE can look at an athlete and just observe their movement, where their eyes are. It's the same thing that in video games, when you're playing multiplayer against an opponent, SE will look exactly what that character is doing, the way that they're moving, and even more importantly, what they're not doing, exploit that, and really push their own boundaries, push the other person. It likes to challenge, it likes to fight. That's what SE's good at. And video games, athletes, legal documents. This is how you should kind of look at the function. Don't try to confine them in any ways. Like, oh yeah, this is some like caveman energy. No. I hope these examples helped. This is all I want to say for now before this video gets too long, and I hope you enjoyed.